Good evening, everyone. Oops, having technical problems on my end, so let's get this party started. This is Luciana Turner of the LT&A Group bringing you this rendition of the Contracting Chatter, where we're going to demystify government certifications and let's take some of the fluff in the air out of this conversation. I'm sharing my screen, and there's this beautiful slide presentation I put together. I doubt I even use it because I just want this kind of be a conversation between everybody around what certifications are and the purpose they serve in contracting and the best way to utilize them if you're going to get certified. So let me unmute my co-host and excuse the sunglasses because I still haven't gotten my new glasses, so I need to see. So I can unmute my co-host. Good evening, ladies. I have with me co-hosting on this evening, Miss LaShonda Bracy. Can you hear me?
I can. I didn't know I was co-hosting, but okay. I'll go with it.
Well, you know I'm going to drag you in the conversation no matter what. And then we have someone new to the chatter, Miss Dee Bowden. How are you? Good evening.
Hello.
So I'm going to just share a little bit of where this comes from. This actually came from a couple of Facebook tirades I kind of went on with a couple of people over all of this. Everybody just gets certified and they will hand you contracts. And I'm yelling to the top of my voice, no, they won't. No, they won't. So rather than keep getting into these little tirades, I thought I would just educate people. And I've discussed this topic with you too, and it's just kind of frustrating to see this go on where we're just kind of setting people up. And, then they get out here to get certified, they spend all this money and not realize that some of these certifications are absolutely free. And they're paying hundreds and thousands of dollars to get certified, and they don't know what to do with it. They're certified, but who cares?
Right.
And then they're disgusted, and then they want to talk about there's no money in contracting. And so let's just dispel the myths and just start this conversation.
Which one you want to start with? 8A?
You know what? I'm going to make 8A last.
Oh, man.
And I am going to use my beautiful slide presentation. It's so pretty. Don't you like the colors?
Looks good. Looks good.
I'm going to bypass all the this is me jargon, LT&A Group. I'm here to help you create a strategy. This is me. I got frustrated seeing small businesses get taken advantage of and not being able to utilize themselves in contracting. So voila, LT&A was born. And you know what? Let me throw out a contracting tip. Pricing is very important. And people see technically acceptable lowest price proposal, and they mean come in like they're the 5 and dime. And that's not what that means.
No.
That means the best bang for the buck that the government can get. That's what that means. And if you're not within a certain parameter, if you're not within a certain range, you're just out. And one of the things in talking to contracting officers is just asking a question around price and proposals, period. One of their tests is if you can't price properly, then they're leery of your ability to be able to compete and perform on the project. Because, if you're not pricing properly, then that means you're not covering your expenses. So are they going to get halfway through the contract and you can't perform because you can't meet your expenses? It scares them. So remember, too low, too high is just as bad. Your price is your price, and that's what it is.
Right.
Just it is what it is. I have an overhead rate that's over 100%. I don't have, it is what it is. But anybody looking at the pricing and the rate computation, they know that it's accurate, and it just is what it is, So then I just have to be the best at what I do, which is what So that's the contracting tip for this evening. So we have, there are different types of certifications. They all serve the same, yet similar purposes. And then there's a mentality that you need to adapt when you're utilizing them. I mean, wouldn't you ladies agree you have to have like a mentality or a thought process when you're getting certified in contract? I don't care if it's 8A or DBE, whatever it is. There has to be like a thought process.
Veteran known, disabled, veteran known. You need to go into it cognizant on what you're trying to do and the goal you're trying to achieve. Because one of those myths is, oh, I'm just going to use this. I'm 8A. So you think there's this windfall. And that's the biggest crock of BS ever.
I'm glad you put it just like that. Because
okay, you got an 8A, but you still need to market your business. You still have to network. You still need to know how to search for who's willing to accept your services.
And now I'm going to go here. Who created this myth? And once you're certified, people hand you contracts. I mean, where did that even come from?
The Wizard of Oz.
The who?
The wonderful Wizard of Oz. But the thing is, like, I have so many clients that are like, or people that have reached out to me that, oh, I got an 8A contract, so I just went and we talking about 8A last, so I'm going to stop.
No, but actually, you know what? It's all of it is important because all of it needs to be discussed. Because here's the thing: I think people are under the impression that once you get a government contract, that the money is just supposed to follow you. I think they forget that the government contract is just a vehicle. It's a tool. You still have to actually go to work. Just like we're sitting here tonight, you actually have to go to work. I think what happens is if the people who are getting government contracts are presenting it as if it is, like I said, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Like you get the certification, you get this government contract, and poof, you're going to get contracts. They forget you actually have to compete, you have to network, you have to introduce yourself, and you have to show why you are qualified to actually get the contract above and beyond anybody else. The government is not just going to magically drop this on you like you sort of go, oh, poof, can I get a number, please? Like you go up to the deli, sir.
They set them on people's laps. You didn't know?
Say again?
They setting them on people's laps. You didn't know?
I was not aware of that until somebody posted in a group that I was in that once you get certified, all you have to do is walk in with your piece of paper and they have to give you a contract. And
girl, please, what? Stop. Listen, if that was the case, if that was true, all three of us would be multimillionaires right now.
Yes.
Come on now. I mean, between the three of us, all the government experience all three of us have in the different areas that we have, especially me, because I do closeouts. I collect money for the government on an everyday basis. I should be multimillionaire. Somehow, let me walk in and tell you what I can do for you, and boom, I got it. It doesn't work like that at all.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
When you get contracting people together, we kind of we get to talking and we get to talking contract language. And it's like, because we see this, we all have extensive experience. And then when you see people out here offering pie in the sky, it's like, honey, stop. You got contracting is work.
Right. And I think that's the truth. And that's the piece that people forget, is because the thing is, I think people get caught up in the idea that the government is the largest procurer of goods and services in the world. We all know that. Right. But what they forget is that the government is in business. It's in business to take care of itself first. That's what it is in business for.
Almost
they want to get the best. They want to get the best service for the lowest price. Period. Now, obviously, as you grow, as you get better, yes, will they work with you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, you have to demonstrate why they should actually do business with you in the first place.
Right.
And I think,
You've got to provide a competitive edge as well, though.
right.
It's not just, oh, I'm a cleaning company, so give me a contract. Oh,
To do what?
To clean.
You
clean what though?
You can explain.
So glad you used that analogy.
Come again?
I'm so glad you used that analogy. My very first client was a cleaning company.
Okay.
And she came into my office and she had 3 goals. She wanted to get on GSA. She wanted to get on 8A. And she wanted to do, it was something else she wanted to do. Can't remember what the third one was. But then she couldn't. I said, well, how many contracts have you won? Well, I'm not making any money and I haven't really won any contracts. Okay.
Well, what makes you think you're going to get an 8A?
Wait a minute. I said, so show me what you're submitting. I didn't even look at the proposal. I looked at her pricing sheet. I said, oh, I can tell you why you're not winning. These prices is just not even within the realm. You're not even in the same galaxy. She wasn't. And she got offended. And I was like, okay, GSA is good. 8A is good, but you got to fix this first. So, my key goes back to that mindset. You have to make sure your stuff is tight because otherwise you're going to spin your wheel. Right. And you're going to get frustrated. And then you create a reputation for yourself in the government contracting world as not being efficient because you keep turning in the same thing. They keep getting denied. And it's like,
yeah, you're not tweaking it to make it better.
And, and your whole claim to fame is your first, third, 15th, 80th, 200th line is, I'm a DBE. I'm certified this, I'm certified that. That don't mean anything. It's just the means to an end. It isn't the end.
Exactly. And I think unfortunately, just like in going to college, it's the same idea. You go, you do your 4 years, 6 years, 12 years, whatever, bachelor's, master's, PhD. All it demonstrates is you're able to complete a discipline. That's it. That's all. And at the end of it, you still have to make the connections. You still got to show why it's the same thing. But unfortunately, like I said, this whole government contracting thing is put out there. And like I said, I use the Wizard of Oz because that seems to be like that. It's like you pull back the curtain, you're like, oh, I got to do some work. Oh, I have to do all this. Oh, I have to do. And the thing is, the people who are selling them this bill of goods are making it sound like you just magically just show up. And it just happens.
Right. And there's there are several individuals out there that are selling, get 8A. So there's a guy that he came here from, he's a real estate guy. He came here from North Carolina or South Carolina to meet with me and 2 other government contracting agencies because he paid somebody to help him get his 8A. And now he wants to do government contracting. But what do you want to do? You're in real estate.
He doesn't know.
What to do? So I had to explain to him, well, here is where you should be targeting. If you're interested in doing real estate in the government, you need to be reaching out to HUD. You need to be reaching out to Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. Maybe you can do some rehabbing of some houses. You need to get a team together. You need to get some paint guys together, people that can go in and clean some houses that have been foreclosed on or something. I mean, that would get you contracts. Like selling real estate to the government, that's a very small group.
And
right, and plus GSA, and he doesn't know that GSA is a real estate management firm of the government anyway.
Every government building.
Every. Hello, go on. Just saying.
Right, so it was just kind of like, so that's even with an office move, like I do work with the USDA, and we have a regional office in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They were moving to an office building across the street, but it was this whole tirade of other stuff that had to happen and that had to be approved before they could even move across the street.
There you go.
Right, including including logistics, interior design, space planners, the
All
whole nine. I know. Girl, please, what? I know.
Okay, so let me just throw in my last contracting tip for the evening, and that's basically I'm kind of billing.
Say it again.
Billing is the last contracting tip for the evening.
Billing? Okay.
Billing, yeah. This goes back to a little tirade I had with somebody the other day. They were talking about the government doesn't pay on time, and they keep throwing stuff back. And I asked them, well, what does your bill look like? Was it turned in on time? And well, I was only a day late. Okay, so you went to the next.
You didn't follow directions.
There's at least 5 pages in the RFP alone that talks about billing.
You're right.
Follow directions. It's not rocket science. Follow directions. I don't care what your internal process is. You need an internal billing process that also includes whatever's in your contract.
So I can say in the last, since 2005-07 that I've been doing government contracting. Okay, yeah, I've had been paid for 30 days or on the beginning of a contract, 45 days. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I don't think I've had an issue with payment.
I'll even go here with small businesses. They're actually trying to push a 15-day turnaround.
Oh yeah. As long as, so one of my clients is in the treasury system. So let's say I submitted an invoice on March 1st. I'm going to see that hit my account no later than March 16th. So it's 15 days and you have to count back from when the 30-day actually is. What that 15-day mark is. So I typically would see a check no later than the 16th.
Barring there are no complications or no mistakes made.
It's not rocket science because it's already in the system and you're not even submitting an actual invoice. You're just going in, attaching the hours to whatever that contract is in the treasury system, and they pay out for it.
Right. Like I said, barring no issues, meaning there's no data entry issues, everything is loaded up correctly. That's the piece I'm talking about.
Right. And what the other cool thing is that the person that has to sign off on it, they have a time limit.
Yes.
They have like 7 days and then it's kicked to somebody else, like their supervisor.
Now, I'm going to tell you the funniest experience I had in government compliance. We had a whole issue in billing one time. It was about bills not getting paid. So we performed an internal review of the billing process. And this is going to be funny, but we hadn't been paid on a particular contract for, I think it was like 3 or 4 months. And, everybody was screaming. And it was this one particular biller, and she was scanning the bill in. She was uploading it. She was just scanning it wrong side up. So she was scanning blank sheets. So, don't be quick to blame the government for everything. Take a
like you scan it and upload it. You not looking at it.
She never opened the files.
Wow. But listen, you and I talked about this because we talked about the reasons why people don't get paid, and some of it is just some of the most ridiculous things ever. It's just like you didn't, like a situation like that. You forgot to put your contract number. You forgot to change the date.
Right.
Some people have the billing system automatically, so you bill March 1st, April 1st, May 1st, blah, blah, blah. But you got to make sure you're changing it so that you're still billing within the correct billing period, et cetera, et cetera. That's the stuff we've talked about. It's just been hilarious. So I'm like, okay, wow. And here's what's good.
Okay, so let's just get back on topic with these certifications.
That's hilarious.
But I just had to throw, and I like to throw a few tips in there. And, some real world examples of what happens. It's not impossible. And, some of the stuff is hilarious, quite frankly.
But you didn't check for 3 months. I mean, I'm just.
Because, and you know what? And the thing comes back to, I worked for a very large contractor. And it was the billing manager's fault that he didn't even review the files. Same contractor. It's the same contract. You have a designated billers. Well, then if it isn't this one, then it's that one.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, we got it fixed. We got the bill submitted. We had to do some counseling and some coaching all the way around.
Not counseling.
No. Now, let me talk to the girl.
I'm gonna just fire you because you are costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
On this particular contract, each bill was for well over $1 million. That's why everybody was going ham, because I don't know if y'all familiar with the T contract, T's 2.
With the
it was like
say it again.
The T's 2 contract.
Okay.
It was a multi-level IDIQ contract, and each task order was like millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just crazy.
Is it anything like the T4, the VA T4?
No, this one was through DOD. It was through Army.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was crazy, but these are the little things that can happen if you don't have a documented process in place. But
the little things, right?
Certifications, and I'm not going to read all of this on here. Those watching and those who's catching the replay can read all of this. But the certifications were designed to give small businesses a little help in the contracting world. They were not designed to be a crutch. They were not designed to be the end all and be all, but they were designed to kind of give small businesses an advantage in government contracting. Then there's a whole FAR called FAR19 talks about the different certifications and subcontracting with subs that meet these certifications and all that other good stuff. Now, the SBA, I'm gonna lay a little blame at their door for a little bit. Y'all might agree or not, but they talk about these certifications they're likening them to like CPAs and CIA certifications. They're like the professional documentation that shows capability, and I took that directly from SBA's website. And I think that's where some of this is going haywire, because that isn't what these certifications are for. There's a whole other thing that you're supposed to do to prove capacity, but it just isn't what these certification programs were designed for, at least. At least that's not my experience.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, too, that would even be on their website. Because later on in here, I actually go to Department of Transportation DBE's program, and they tell you flat out, it is designed to be a tool for small businesses to gain a foothold in government, in contracting, while you kind of get yourself together so that you can eventually compete with the larger companies. It's not supposed to be I don't want to use the term crutch, but it's not supposed to be a crutch or a pacifier. It's supposed to be like training shoes. That's a crazy analogy, but like training shoes.
You're going out.
So like training.
Losing you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Yep.
Okay.
So question, when we start looking at these certifications, have you looked at the airport authority certification compared to like a DOT certification?
I'm actually airport certified in Maryland.
Say that
what I found is each state does that a little differently. In the state of Maryland, they tag it on to the DOT certification process.
And the reason why I asked is because I went to an airport meeting recently for a pre-solicitation conference at the airport for one of their large safety training RFPs that they put out.
Mm-hmm.
The requirement was for you to be for local small business certified something.
Yeah, it's an A.
LD.
I started to pull my certification documentation out. Each state handles it a little different.
Right.
Like I said, in Maryland, when I applied for my DBE, I received my DBE, my my economically disadvantaged, my disadvantaged, my airport, and I received another. They did it all. They wrapped it all in one application
For the state of Maryland.
for the state of Maryland.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, it's a separate application. That I do know.
Right.
You do your DBE, then you have to turn around and submit the exact same information to get your airport certification. And the key to that is also this. You cannot bid on any airport related proposals without that certification. That is the one certification that you have to bid on a particular type of contract.
And I think that's the case here. You've got to be that locally locally owned, disadvantaged business to bid on anything for Dulles or Reagan.
Yes. And the thing now, Virginia is really funky. Because Virginia,
trust me, I know.
Huh?
I said, trust me, I know.
Yeah, Virginia really funky. Because you know what? Did I still? No, I don't still have the site up. Shoot. I had the site up. Virginia actually. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Virginia has their own small business. Most states do.
Mm-hmm.
But they have their own small business certification that they call SWAM.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they have another one. If you submit SWAM, but SWAM does not certify you as some. There's another. It's like
yeah.
And you have to complete each of them.
Yeah.
One doesn't grandfather you into the other one.
Right.
So I guess that's another tip, that just because you're a certified DBE in one entity, it doesn't necessarily cross state lines.
And the other thing that I think people don't recognize is, at one point SBA was talking about, and they're still talking about it, and I think SBA hasn't figured it out. Like your certifications had to come from a secured kind of entity. You couldn't self-certify. But what small businesses need to know is you can still self-certify and use some of those self-certifications until SBA figures out what they're going to do.
Now, I'm going to tell you what's funny. In Montgomery County, Maryland, and in the state of Maryland, you can still self-certify small business.
Yeah.
And they'll accept it. Now, somebody may knock on your door and ask you to prove it.
What the person from SBA told me was, and this was at a USAID event, she said that if somebody doesn't accept your self-certification, have them call me.
That works on the federal level. States are taking a different viewpoint. Because I know Virginia, they don't care what SBA say. If you're not SWAM certified, they don't have to recognize your small business.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's that now we kind of start getting into politics a little bit, but
right.
There's actually a whole big fraud case that came out that surrounds all of that. That's kind of driving away from self-certification more into the formal certification process.
Right.
So, we've actually talked about all of these certifications, the different types, the small business and veteran-owned, service-disabled owned, and service-disabled and veteran-owned are two different certifications, and you can actually have both. at the same time. I don't know why, and you can actually piggyback most of these. So I don't know why people think these veteran-owned and services
The same thing, yeah.
They're not.
Every veteran isn't a disabled veteran.
True. And
that's true.
With all of the changes going on at the Veterans Administration, if you qualify for these, you really need to go for it, because I was on their website, and most of their contracts, they reserve for veteran-owned businesses.
Only, yep.
I don't think I've come across one I could bid on, because I'm not a service member.
Me either.
Now, our famous additional certs, 8A, Hub Zone, and I threw in Mentor Protege just because it's a small business program, but I threw it in there. But this 8A one is going to be the death of everybody.
So just a couple of things that are new with Mentor Protege. You no longer have to be an 8A to be a Mentor Protege, but you find your mentor and you're only supposed to be with that mentor for 3 years. You can renew your Mentor Protege agreement after 3 years, or you can go and find another mentor. So you can have 2 mentors in a 6 or 7 year period. So that was some of the things that are changing. And then at the Treasury event I was at last week, some of the conversation was, okay, so I'm a Mentor Protege and I'm working with a large company and they're not doing anything that they said they were going to do. How are we tracking the companies that are going in and getting, points for being mentors, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do? So they're looking at ways to try to track how companies are interacting with these small businesses as well, because a lot of it is the company is just using it as a vehicle for them to get the contract and then not helping the company at all. I
know that at one time the onus was DCAA was policing that, and DCAA is Defense Contract Audit Agency. But after the great blowout in 2007, and that's a whole conversation by itself. And then Congress, they basically put up the sacrificial lamb, which was the head of DCAA, and replaced her with somebody else. Their mandate has been incurred cost submissions, because they're actually, when I left, I used to work for General Dynamics. When I left General Dynamics in 2013, they were auditing 2002 Home Office incur cost submission.
Oh, gosh.
So what they were doing was auditing multiple years at one time. So my last audit at General Dynamics was 2007, 2008, and 2009 altogether. Then they put that audit. Then it got kicked back because the samples weren't large enough, because they tried to do 3 years in one audit, and the kickback was, no, you have to do each year separately.
Right.
So we had to then re-audit all 3 years all over again. And
oh, wow.
So the person or the entity that's supposed to be policing Mentor Protege does not have the time to police it.
Okay.
So then the question comes in is, who's going to become the police? And we know in the government, nobody likes to give up territory.
Right. So I think SBA is also doing their own Mentor Protege program now, in my understanding. So if you were a Mentor Protege through XYZ, it doesn't count. You can come in brand new under SBA's Mentor Protege and start fresh, was the understanding.
Wow.
And everybody was like, well, I've been a Mentor Protege for 5 years. So you saying I can do the process through SBA, and your slate is wiped clean which I found extremely interesting. So you can have a company that's becomes a mentor protege, and they can be a mentor protege for 12 years, essentially.
Wow.
So if the former agency was DCAA, then now there are two agencies. It's SBA and DCAA.
That's going to be interesting.
I know.
Food for thought.
I know, right? I mean, it's almost like it's just like what? But yeah, the guy from SBA was explaining that SBA was doing their own mentor protege program.
I don't know what to say about that.
Well, if it almost sounds like redundancy, because you think about it, it's kind of like when you get your clearance at one agency and you think it'd be the same across.
Do it again. Yeah.
Yep, it's the same. This sounds like the same thing to me, because it's like, for example, like I'm at Coast Guard, which is part of Homeland Security. But if I go to any other agency within Homeland Security, I still have to do my same paperwork over again, even though I'm already in Homeland Security, even though I'm in OPM, I still got to do it. So if I leave Coast Guard, I got to go someplace and do the exact same thing. I'm like,
I've had to do it 5 times. DHS.
5?
I've had to do it 5 times.
5 times.
DHS system isn't talking to Customs and Border Patrol system, who's not talking to Homeland Security's other system, who's not talking to GPO, who's not talking to OPM, who's not talking to USDA, who's not talking to Postal Inspection Services. Oh, that's 7.
Oh, wait a minute, though. Wait a minute.
Not talking to Postal OIG. Oh, I could keep going.
Have either of you worked for the Department of Energy?
No.
They have their own.
Department of what?
Department of Energy. They have their own clearance.
Oh, no. Yes, they do.
And so when I first entered government contracting, I actually worked on a project that was operating out of Capitol Police.
Okay.
And I had to obtain a security clearance. And I worked with the guys who do their countermeasure stuff. Well, they wanted to send me over to the Department of Energy for some crazy reason. And they wouldn't let me come because I didn't have their security clearance. So I was like, well, what is the difference? It's a whole nother designation. Their designation is Q. So if you don't have a Q clearance, you cannot work classified anything at the Department of Energy.
Absolutely crazy.
Ridiculous. What is it? You just picked another letter. It's the same certification. It's the same thing. You picked another letter because you wanted to be cute, and you wanted to be cute, and you wanted somebody to pay, and security clearances are expensive.
Yeah.
50 grand and up.
Pay all this money all over again so I could put a Q? Please. It's just that we only want to get into the certification system. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's sad.
But, it is. I mean, well, but when you mentioned about the mentor protege program, it reminded me of the redundancy factor, and this sounds like the exact same thing. So here we are talking about, we're talking about government waste. It's like, okay, so you've got this mentor protege program with the different agencies, and now SBA is doing it, and now we're talking about certification. In your clearances, same thing. I'm like, and if we keep talking for a few more minutes, we're going to discover something else. It's just like, it's part of the fabric, if you will. But I just want to have a question once you finish with your certification.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of delve into a little bit of something, because I think people don't understand that there are different definitions for small business. So you're going after all these certifications, and one thing everybody needs to realize, there are multiple triggers in government contracting, state, federal, it doesn't matter. There are triggers. Once you start making a certain amount of money, you're up-leveling the game, you're changing the rules a little bit, especially for those trying to go into defense contracting. There's really a lot of triggers over there.
Right.
But let's just keep that. Let's not put any cinnamon in the applesauce right now. So the definition of small business changes depending upon your NAICS code.
That's
and
right.
I just kind of downloaded, and I'll upload in the chatter group the full NAICS code list and what qualifies you as a small business. But I just took a sample here. So depending on NAICS code, and I did a bad sample because there's a lot of redundancy here. But if you're a custom computer programmer, you're a small business until you hit $27.5 million.
Right.
Now, most people don't consider that a small business. But if you do corn farming, and I did that because I was looking at Hawaii. I'm sorry. But if you do corn farming, it's like $750,000. Once you hit that, you're no longer a small business. I mean, and this sounds crazy, but if you do work with the Department of Agriculture or some of these state, Hawaii, they have a lot of state contracts around horse farming and farming, period. So all of these NAICS codes and knowing these dollars amounts are very, very important.
Right. So it's interesting because my NAICS code for training and development, I'm a small business until I hit $51 million.
There you go.
And I'm just like, wouldn't it be nice? I'm working on it. To no longer be considered a small business. Okay.
Well, that's interesting. So, Luciana, so for debt collection or revenue collection, what's that one? Like my NAICS code is 561110.
You know what? And let me stop screen sharing and open that up because that's why I looked that up before. Because I looked it up to see what it would be. And you said your NAICS code was what?
561110. That should be collections and revenue and something else. It's like 3 different words. But
now,
I know it should be collections.
FYI, they made some changes to NAICS codes.
Mm-hmm. They did that last month or month before.
Well, and they were just released.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's actually a comparison, which is why I'm putting. Which is another reason why I'm uploading this entire thing into the chatter group, because there's actually like a wait a minute. I'm sorry. There's actually a comparative, 2012 versus 2017. So you need to kind of look at your NAICS codes to see if the change affects you or not.
Okay. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Let's see. You said 56.
56. It should be 5611, and then 561110.
Here it is.
It should come up under. It should come up under either collection agency, debt collection, one of those three. I can't remember
I was putting in the wrong NAICS code. It's actually 561110 is now Office Administrative Services, and it's $7.5 million.
So did they change your code?
Let me see.
They must have, because that's been my code for a while. So Office Administrative Services, you said. So I'm gonna have to go look up my new one and figure out what my code is now, because that's been my code. I'm like,
okay. Here you go.
Okay. So if I want to find out, so then in order to research, so to do a search for what I offer, which is you both know is debt collections, and I guess maybe my other one would be 56541 which is like admin services. Because I'm not sure what my contract closeout services fall under. I guess it used to be under acquisition, but I guess maybe it falls under finance. I'm not sure.
Well, let's look. Administrative support services. Is this a change? Temporary help services is $27.5 million now.
I don't remember. That's one of my NAICS, but
Collection
there it is.
agency.
Okay.
You're 561-440.
440. Okay, there you go. 561-440. That's me. Okay.
And it's 15 million.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
well, we got to work on that.
Credit bureau, court reporting, stenography, travel agencies is 20.5 million. Maybe I do need to go into travel agencies.
Mm-hmm.
But notice, you're small business until you hit those markers. And just out of curiosity, and somebody might look at this and say, they're so off topic. No, we're not. It affects your certification. And if you research incorrectly, there's a massive penalty that they apply to you against you, and they consider it falsifying documentation to the government. So you really need to know if you qualify as a small business based on revenue, or if you qualify based on number of employees.
Exactly.
That's important. So while everybody is running around here telling you to get certified, is anybody making that distinction? Because if you qualify based upon number of employees and you're not keeping track,
right?
The government love to ask you for more money than you have. So the smallest. So if you're a merchant wholesaler, you qualify by employee and you can't have any more than 100 employees. Business to business electronic markets. You can't have any once you hit 101 employees, you're no longer small business.
So that makes me wonder if some of these tech companies are keeping their numbers under 100 to still be classified as a small business.
You know what? That's a good question.
And the reason why I say that is because I did a little bit of work this summer for a company, Addux, and they have a lot of military contracts. They also have a DHS contract, which I think is, I have to send that RFP to you. It's under bid right now, Luciana. I saw it today, and I was like, I think this is the contract I used to work on. I might need to go ahead and bid on this.
The footnotes are very detailed too, so I think this will be really good to add out there for everybody, because they actually have definition. They have contacts in here. So but these are, I just searched for technology. So if you're an R&D biotech company, you qualify by employee numbers, which that makes sense.
Right.
But you can't have any more than 1,000 employees. And if you're a reseller to the government of information technology, you can't have any more than 100.
So question, I'm wondering if organizations are using multiple NAICS codes and then saying, oh, I only have 100 employees that qualify under this NAICS code. This other 50 employees qualify under this set of NAICS codes.
Now, I was going to do a whole training around audits, but from what I was reading while I was putting this presentation together, when they come in to do the verification part, they'll ask you for, if you qualify based on revenue, they ask you for your revenue documentation. If you qualify based upon employees, they ask you for employee detail.
Okay.
So most companies, small, just starting out, usually don't have it. But most companies have position descriptions. They have,
Right.
and I'm trying to think of the official term for it, and I'm going blank, but that's okay. And it's basically that says if you are in this position, this is what you do. And that kind of qualifies what goes under what NACE code. So
Okay.
you really have to be mindful along those lines, in that you may try to argue, but I say they're this. You have to make sure that position descriptions and definitions really fall within the NACE code that you're qualifying them under.
Okay.
And there's so it really isn't what you say. I'm gonna share this piece of information. When I worked for this 8A company in their compliance group, they were bought out by General Dynamics. There was this whole thing where Department of Labor actually came in and did an audit. And then part of the audit, it was the company had said that the IT help desk department were salaried employees and they weren't entitled to overtime. Well, the Department of Labor came in with their little check sheet. And when they got finished checking, they said, oh, sorry, these are hourly employees according to this definition. And this is the position description that you gave them. And it matches this. So they had to pay back 5 years worth of overtime unpaid to every last one of those employees. So everybody has a definition of what qualifies you under what. And you have to make sure you meet the federal definition. And if you feel that there should be an exception, well, you better document it. And your documentation need to be tight. Because when they come in and audit, they don't care what your opinion was. They care what you can prove.
Right.
So, labor categories. Woo! Everybody should have labor categories. That keeps you, as you grow, these are the things that, that 7-figure base that is going to allow you to obtain 7-figure contracts and to grow your government contracting business. You need labor categories. And then there's a whole nother spiel on that. So, but that's how deep they get into it with that kind of, when they start qualifying you based on employees.
Gotcha.
Well, this is an interesting conversation. We learned about some changes to mentor protege. We learned about the changes to
the NACE code.
NACE code. We have learned that the Wizard of Oz does not issue government contracts.
They twirl your wine when you get that 8A. So yeah, you were talking about, I don't know if this is a platform where you're using me as a guinea pig on the whole 8A.
Actually, what I had to, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to edit that, make sure I edit that out, because that was just so beyond not professional. I believe our next conversation, and I'm looking it up because I posted it in the chatter. Mm-hmm. We're talking about bid, no bid. Not bid, no bid, sorry. We're talking about yes, not yet decision around 8A. And I believe that is the next chatter. I think it's 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Where we're going to have a nice little, LaShonda has graciously agreed to be our laser coaching person. And I'm actually, I'm obligating her without telling her, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm a CPA.
You voluntold me? Is that what that is?
I didn't voluntold you. No. You just so happened to agree it was a great idea after I suggested it.
Oh, okay.
So
So in other words, you co-signed on it. Okay, got it.
there you go. We went through the procurement process, and at the end of the day, after negotiations, we agreed.
Okay, that's your story.
I'm sticking to
And
it.
she's sticking to it.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can get Sheila to jump in on this conversation around 8A certifications as well.
Okay.
And I have a little recording that I did, and I think I'm gonna re-upload it. And it's called Making a Decision in Contracting. And you have two choices: yes, not yet. I don't believe there's a no decision when you're making decisions in contracting, except for if you're going to respond to a proposal. And even that can be a not yet.
Right.
You can't do it this time, but when that recompete comes out, you better have your game right.
Exactly.
And I think we get in a hurry to do stuff because it's the latest fad, it's the latest craze, it's the latest. And I believe, and I like, I watch home builders, tiny house, reconstruction, flip flop, all that stuff. And I always liken government contracting and your business development to going from a 200, I watched an episode the other night. This couple went from a 200 square foot tiny house to a 400 square foot tiny house because they was having a baby. So the difference by adding 200 square feet.
They went from a box to a bigger box.
But it was so huge. I wouldn't do it, but it was huge.
Oh, y'all are hilarious.
In the requirement for the foundation, just for 200 square feet, which actually all they did, I think they added like 4 feet to one end. They added 4 feet on the end, and then they went 2 feet wide. It's not a lot. But the support for that minor change was totally different. So as we up level and we start trying to apply these higher level certifications, your support needs to change.
Right. And I think you and I have had that conversation as we are in partnership with some of the stuff that we are doing. Like, we no longer a mom and pop shop. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, we still small businesses, but we're no longer a mom and pop shop, and you can't do everything and I can't do everything. So we have to, you've got to up level your support. You've got to up level the types of people that you're hiring, especially if you want longevity in some of these contracts. You've got to find quality people. So your cousin Pookie can't go and work on this contract for you. I'm sorry.
No, why not? No.
If cousin Pookie is cleaning the toilets at the Department of Defense, yes.
And it's really
is sitting in the boardroom with General Eisenhower, who is dead, and he don't know Eisenhower is dead. You in trouble.
Or he thinks Hawaii is a country. Oh, I'm going out of the country.
Where are you going?
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
You know what?
Wait. Here's the best part. Y'all, wait a minute. Do I need a passport?
Right.
Yes.
So there you go. There
you
go.
We're laughing about this, but these are really conversations we've heard.
Right. So I did have a conversation with one of my old coaches. Connected me to a guy that's in Silver Springs that has been in government contracts and has several contracts. And what he explained to me is he was like, at some point your business is going to shift and you're going to have to wipe out your staff that you started with and get new staff. And it's not that it's anything against those people, but your business is going to go in a different direction.
Well, I'm going to go here.
It has to.
We're in partnership on a contract that's kind of sitting out there. We're waiting for the final go on this contract.
It's a yes.
I know.
We done named
We
it,
agree.
named it.
Exactly. All three of us are on that same contract, so it's gonna be beautiful.
And then I'm gonna go here. And then I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna be great for those on the replay. There are tips that are being presented that we're not labeling tips, but they are tips.
Right. Oh, most definitely.
When somebody
That's
sends
leaves
you,
clues.
when somebody sends you the new regulation for reporting your labor to that entity, and the new regulation does not start for 3 days, that's a little bit of an indication that you're in favor with them.
Right. Pay attention.
Right.
Hint. You know, so, but that, I digress. But I was just looking at my staff that I proposed, or I included in the proposal.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? Some of them ain't gonna make it to the final cut. Because I look at them, they're good at what they do, but we're entering a new realm.
Right.
And their mindset is not ready for that realm.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to make you ready for the realm.
And
You're either ready
and it's
or
like
you're not. And it's okay if you're not.
Right.
But you're not going to be in this realm with me trying to get right.
So, and it's funny that you say that, because I had this conversation. Sometimes when you grow, you have to go. So I had this conversation with another contract that I'm on earlier, and there was a little bit of dispute about the way I trained something or the way I said something, but we got success from my training. So I'm trying to figure out what the argument was. What was the big deal? But I left it alone, because then I started going back to my old invoice, and I was like, well, this is not even worth it anyway. So whatever. I'm gonna let y'all have it. It's not even worth having the argument, because I'm on a whole different level.
And and that even goes back to, in one of the training, I think it was the last training, when I was talking about identifying opportunities on this state where the contracts are.
Okay.
I kind of did a piece on making the bid, no bid decision. Bringing in your key players, the person who's going to be running the project, your finance person, your accounting person, and if you think accounting and finance is the same thing, I need you to call me immediately, because they're not.
No, it's not.
You need to bring these stakeholders together. And everybody should have a copy of this RFP. And if you don't know what an RFP is, you need to call somebody on this chat.
You can call me.
call LaShonda, because the chatter is morphing. So we're going to have contracting conversations. And if you don't understand the terminology, then you need to get into SCS Foundation. That starts April 3rd. You need to get in LaShonda's boot camp that's coming up soon. We just really need to start learning the language in the world we're operating.
And you have to.
But I was saying, you as the owner, you should have read that RFP 4 times before you handed it to your team.
Right.
Your team should have read it twice before they came in that meeting. Then as a team, you need to read that RFP, and I say it like this for this reason. Each person, I view everything from the audit perspective. So I could pick up on some things you may not pick up, because I am your compliance auditor. So my strategy and my mindset is going to be on, I ain't giving the government back nothing. So let's look at this. Let's look at this. Dee is going to read it from that collection standpoint. She's going to, LaShawn is going to read it from this project performance standpoint. So then we can all bring our knowledge together and collectively and intelligently say yes or no.
And what I'll say to you is, Luciana, is one of the best things that happened is on that contract that I worked on in September, that $16 million IDIQ. After we were awarded the contract, we sat with for 3 days, and we went through that RFP line by line. What are the expectations? Because there was some stuff that was still a little gray, like, are we responsible for this, or are they responsible for this? And it turned out oh, we're responsible for that. But it wasn't stated that way in the RFP. So I think that's one of the best strategies that I've actually seen going into a much larger contract, sitting down with all the stakeholders and going through the requirements line by line and saying, is this us or is this you?
Yep.
And then I'm going to go here. Using that viewpoint in the beginning, look with the end in mind.
Right.
Before you even bid on it. But then I'm going to say that, and I went through all of that to say this, and this goes back to up-leveling and changing something. I was in a meeting with some of my stakeholders, and I had one person in particular. She is the bomb.com at what she did. Don't get it twisted. But because we were looking at dollars that she had never seen before, she was scared.
And you know that don't faze me.
And the fear in her permeated the room to the point my finance person said, can we take a break? And called me in the hallway. She said, I don't know what you're going to do, but old girl got to go. That's how much the fear was, because we're all talking about expansion and she's talking about detraction because the numbers scared her. And her mindset wasn't at a point where she could expand her thinking to encapsulate it. So she was trying to stay in her sphere of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
That's craziness.
And
she sounds like Linus.
When I put the budget together, LaShawn is my witness. I was talking to her. I said I had to go drink some coffee on these numbers. Because the potential when you start scaling in year 2, the potential to make this was like, okay, that's good. I went and got me a cup of coffee and I came back because I'm going to do that. But for her, it was so fear inspiring. So when we talk about there's times as you grow that your staff is going to have to change and we're approaching triggers and levels and da-da-da-da-da, those are the things you have to look for in your staff. Because if you have anyone in your group, especially a leader in your group, who's emanating fear and working from the viewpoint of contraction instead of expansion, you're going to have a hiccup in your company growth.
Right. If you're not willing to grow, you got to go.
Hey, LaShonda, as Steve says, you got to be ready to jump.
All day, every day.
Every day.
My knees get a little scuffed up every now and then, but it's like, hey,
right.
It is.
We're going to do this thing.
And you know, somebody's going to be watching this and they're saying, well, what in the world does any of this have to do with certification? Because certifications is a growth tool.
Right.
Exactly.
And if your whole mindset is, I'm getting certified so I can get a contract, your mindset should be saying, I'm getting certified so I can grow, so I don't need the certification.
And it's so funny that you said this because I just had a call. I had a half-hour consultation before this call, and the person was so hung up on a certified government meeting management certification that she couldn't see past, like, this is what you need to do to grow your business. Like, I could care less about that damn certification. If you want to be an event planner for the government, here's what you need to do. Well, my certification expired. Okay, so let's keep it moving. I was like, what about your contacts? And then she's like, yeah, I work with a 4-star general or so-and-so. Well, you need to find him on LinkedIn. Well, I tried to log on to LinkedIn and I can't get in. How come you can't get into LinkedIn? I said, you need to use your contacts. Well, I haven't talked to them people since 2012. Well, you need to get to know them again. Reacquaint yourself. What is the problem? Like, you giving me all these excuses, and I'm the anti-excuse person. You can't give me excuses. Because they're
Yep.
tools of incompetency, and those who use them build monuments of nothingness. And I don't have time for it. Like, you telling yourself no before you even try.
Because let me tell you, I done emailed every wrong person trying to get back in touch with my previous VP when I was at GD, because he has contacts, because he's worked in, and I'm going to tell you something else. He was the VP of Government Accounting and Finance at GD. He started his own company, sold that company. He used to be a president at Lockheed. And then before that, he retired. And then before retirement, he works government contracting small. Everybody knows everybody.
Right.
Mhm.
So as you never lose track of people,
Almost
because
definitely.
these people, in my past life, government contracting officials have about 55 past lives. If there's 50 departments in the government, they've got 50 past lives. They've worked everywhere.
Prime example is the guy I met with at KPMG last week. He went to do a specific job at Department of Interior. Before he was at Department of Interior, he was consulting for somebody else. I want to say maybe SAIC. Before that, he did something else in contracting. Before that, he was in the military. But he was like, yeah, KPMG might be my last stop, but it might not be, because he came into federal government and he was the director of whatever at Department of Interior for 4 or 5 years before KPMG swooped him up. He's like, yeah, I'm done with this. Maybe I'll go get another job. So it's like, yeah, I've been out to his house. So yeah, I'm just like, yeah, we definitely gonna stay in touch.
Because your plan is to outgrow your certification.
Exactly.
So it is.
It has to be.
I'm enjoying the conversation. But,
I do have one other thing I do want to mention though. With that 8A, individuals also need to. I had this conversation at the event I was at Saturday. Individuals that have 8As, you need to nurture and grow relationships the whole while you have your 8A, and not wait till your last year. So I met somebody Saturday who's in their last year of their 8A certification, and I was like, you need to network and cultivate and start working on other stuff, because you're getting ready to graduate out of the program.
And keep this in mind. 87% of companies who graduate from 8A fail within a year because they did not utilize 8A properly.
Exactly.
So if that doesn't tell you getting certified isn't the holy grail, I don't know what else will. But Dee, do you have some closing thoughts or something that you want to throw in before we sign off for the evening?
I just want to say, first of all, it was great to meet all three. It was great for all of us to be together tonight. Definitely enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to learning and growing with you. And for those that are listening, I would say stay tuned.
LaShonda?
This is LaShonda Bracy. Focus, network, and market your company. And if you don't have anything else, make sure you have your capability statement so individuals know what you do. Have a good night.
If you don't know what that is, go back and look at episode 5 of the Contracting Chatter in Business Development. Sheila Blackman touches on capability statements and what you need to market to the government. That was really cool.
In short, it is your resume for your business.
And there you have it. So we're going to wrap up the chatter on this evening, and I'm going to post the recording in the group because I promised somebody that I would, who had Bible study tonight and they wanted to be a part of the group. And she is just so enthusiastic, I couldn't say no. She's my after chatter, sends me an email full of questions where a lot of my content comes from when I start posting this stuff. You're like, where's this coming from? She's my muse because she comes up with a whole lot of questions after the fact. But next installment, which is in 2 weeks of the chatter,
Mhm.
we're actually going to walk through the 8A. As Ms. LaShonda is going to, we're going to walk through the 8A and she's going to say yes or not yet. So with that being said, have a great evening. And I'm looking forward to growth and conversation as 2017 goes forward. And see everybody later. Have a good evening, ladies, and thank you.
All right. Bye.